Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So the last time I talked about a tenant that refused to leave my property, my tenant wanted to live for free. And, it is story time when you come to my podcast because we're talking about the real, we're talking about life, and life is hard. Life is also fun, exciting, and worth living. You have the luxury of watching these videos, and I have the luxury of making them. And so we're going to talk about real life experiences. And if this is too much for you, I'm sorry, but this is my real life, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So I have a tenant, or I had a tenant that wanted to live for free. So sorry for the spoiler right there. What happened? What happened within that process? Well, as you know, we're in December now. And so this happened right around, I would say, September, late September. I got a text in my phone. I was probably at work, and the tenant, I'm going to call the tenant James, just for the sake of this video. So I'm sorry for all the James out there who got evicted in this video. James texted me and said, "Hey, I'm struggling to pay rent. I just wanted you to be aware of that. We'll talk when you get home." Now, James probably had a plan all figured out. James, when he first came to me, and this was my fault, when James first came to me, James said that he was looking into multiple jobs. James came suit and tie, ready to go. There was one tenant that I had before who came in a suit and tie with a nice car, and it ended up being an entrepreneur, owning multiple nonprofits. Always paid me on time, but you know what he was also doing? He was paying to wash people's laundry downstairs. He was always leaving the door open. He was very, very talkative. So I had, me being such a quiet person, it was a no for me. And come to find out, that car was just rented. Obviously, you're not supposed to be doing people's laundry and people paying you to do their laundry. And then even when he was moving in or moving out, he would hire the homeless to do that. So they would come in drunk. They would come in smelling like the clothes have never been washed ever. And they would even open the fridges to look what was in the fridge. To me, those were big, big red flags that I didn't account for, because when you see a guy in a suit and tie, you typically think, okay, this guy's showing up ready for the job. But in fact, they were showing us a persona that truly wasn't their own. And this was the same case for James. So James came in, said that he was going through a divorce. And I can sympathize with that, because 50% of Americans go through divorces. In the process of James going through this divorce, he told me that he was fighting for the custody of his child, which, as a man, I mean, I have to sympathize with that, because you don't hear often that many fathers are fighting for custody of their children. Now, for whatever reason that may be, the first initial thought is love. And so for me, that made perfect sense. Now, as James is fighting for this custody, he is also saying that he just moved back to Ohio. He's probably been in Ohio for a little while now. And he is going to do several interviews in the coming week. He has 15 lined up and is going to speak to multiple employers. James was willing to pay the deposit, willing to pay the first month's rent, and even pay a little extra. James also stated that he had things in storage, and that he was waiting on his teacher's stipend to pay for the items in storage. Now, that was the first red flag. I hope you all catched it. That he was waiting for a teacher's stipend to pay for his storage items, and that the storage facility was giving him problems. So what did I tell James? I said, James, you can just put all your storage items down here in the basement and save some money. James paid everything up front and then even paid the following month on time and a little extra, $20 extra to be exact, which was then added to the next month. So for month 3, the $20 was going to be applied to that. On the 3rd month, I had walked up to James because James was no longer leaving the house. Now, I understand that I have 2 properties, one that is rented out completely, and then one that I rent room by room, which I actually live in to offset the cost of living. So for a lot of you who were wondering, how do I know all these things? Is because this is one of the units that I rent room by room and one of the rooms I actually live in. So James stopped going out of the home. In fact, the only job that he had throughout the last 3 months was for voting registration for about an hour or 2, which I think pays like $15. James was also ex-military, so he received 10% from the Army. And so that was basically gas money to get by. And I'm assuming food stamps was paying for food, possibly. James could no longer receive government assistance or unemployment, I should say, because it's been 2 years since James was working. I did not know this at the time. Now, James was going to court a lot for the divorce at the very beginning, but it comes to turn out that he wasn't going for custody of the child, but to fight for the child support. Because of this, James not working contributed to him only paying $80 a month in child support. Now, I understand that men and women can be petty. And so the biggest reason that I believe contributed to him not wanting to work was the child support. But because of this, this is also going to affect me negatively. And then when you affect my money, that is when we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Okay? So I've actually seen James's child once when James was moving all of his equipment from the storage facility downstairs. And the child was a nice young child, 11 years of age. Don't want to say the gender, so we'll just skip that. And that was the last that I saw of the child. The child never showed up again. And so if James did see his child, it wasn't here. Even on Halloween, I was away on Halloween, but my neighbor told me that James was giving candy to the children, but your 11-year-old was nowhere to be seen that day. The neighbors didn't even know that James had a child. So James claiming to fight for the child just didn't seem realistic because James was never truly around his child. Now, some may say, how do you know that James is not around his child? Well, because James was always at the VA office, maybe seeking benefits, maybe seeking assistance, or in the library trying to fight me in order to not pay rent. So James actually suck out the VA to pay for his housing expenses. The VA did contact me several times for different pieces of information in order to pay for James's housing. They requested a W-2, a W-9 or a W-2 from my business. They requested the lease. They were provided these documents, and then they requested additional information. When they requested the additional information, no one got back to me. James did tell me that it can take a very long time for government entities to move. And I did notify James from day one that I would not wait on the government to pay his rent. Because of this, James understood that I would not wait on the VA to pay his rent. James believed that because the VA was going to pay, that he no longer had to. And because of this, he felt not only entitled and felt as though it was my job to continue to provide these documents over and over, but that he would actually not do anything. You see, James had his lease agreement. James had all of the signed documents. James even had a fax machine in his room, but yet James never sent these same documents to the VA. He expected me to be getting calls while at work to do this on his behalf. So one thing about me is, although I care about people, and that's why I even sent those documents initially, because I wanted to ensure that James had housing, but I am not going to jeopardize my own lifestyle or my time and my me time to continuously do things that other people should be doing for themselves. You see, James is more than twice my age. And as a grown human being, whether woman or man, you should be able to do things for yourself, especially when you're not working, especially when you have way more time, way more free time than I do. So instead of calling my phone, you should be handling the same business with the same documents that have been provided to you from day one. James did not do that. Therefore, James did not want to live here. So when I went to the eviction court, I had to wait for the 3-day notice, and I also had to wait for the 5-day grace period that was provided to expire. So after Veterans Day had passed, I had to wait till that Monday to offer a 3-day notice. After that 3-day notice was given, I had to then go to the court in order to seek eviction. The eviction date that was given was the 28th of November. At that time, I was in Colombia, living my best life overseas. And because of this, I could not move forward with the eviction on the 28th. So what did I have to do? I had to fax over a note in order to get the date moved. I wanted it to get moved to the 29th because I would be back on the 28th at night. They moved it to the 30th, which is not too bad. And from there, I was able to show up to court, and I won my judgment. Because, I mean, a tenant that's not paying, of course, you're going to win your judgment. It's just that cut and dry. James then showed up late and objected the decision that was made. This delayed the court system by nearly 2 weeks. I think, so the 30th, I didn't get a decision made until the 13th. So nearly 2 weeks, just 1 day shy of 2 weeks. Before the 2 weeks period had came and the judgment was rendered, James moved out on the 11th, because obviously James knew after reading his eviction books that he was not going to win the case, that he did not pay me, and that I was not interested in being buddy-buddy. So what happened? James vacated the property with the help of a friend, took all of his belongings, but not without putting a hole in my carpet and a slight hole in the wall. It's not a bad hole. It's like a paint hole that could be fixed, but still, to me, it's damage. I'm not charging James for the damage because James wouldn't pay anyway, but it's just another lesson. I'm still trying to figure out why there's a hole in the carpet. Now, with that being said, today I just got the red tag. Some people call it a red tag, or some people call it your final notice to vacate. And in the final notice to vacate, James was given until December 18th, midnight, to vacate the premises. If James had not vacated by December 18th, a deputy sheriff would have had to oversee his removal, and I would have gladly removed him. Trust me, I was waiting for the day to come. But that did not come because James did not want to be removed by me. Trust me. I'm sure he didn't want to be removed by me. I was just waiting. I said absolutely nothing. I did not engage him whatsoever. Not even in small chit chat. And I'm actually glad that it didn't come to that. I'm glad that we don't have to see a grown man being removed from a premises. And like I stated in my email to him, lastly, after getting my keys sent in by mail order, that I wish him the best in all of his endeavors, because that's all you can do for someone who is obviously going to things more than just an eviction, right? James was aware that he would be evicted. James was aware that this would come to fruition 2 months in advance. And James did not take the steps in order to ensure that he would have housing here for the winter. So with that being said, at least he was able to dictate for himself where he would go. At least he was able to dictate where all his belongings would go. At least he was able to move with dignity, not be dragged out. And at least he was able to move on his own accord and have an additional 2 weeks. Now, there's a few things that my pettiness wants to mention. James was always able to drive in this high inflated market with expensive gas. James was going everywhere. Now, of course, driving is not the cost of rent these days, but James left the house 6 days a week. And I wonder where he was going because he's not working. And James then showed up to court, which you have to pay $20 to object my eviction. So James had money for $20 evictions. James also had money for mail orders to be sent to the house, for keys to be sent to the house, and for other post-its to be sent to the house. James. I had to spend $200 on an eviction, which takes away from the damn near only 2 months that James paid. Luckily, there was a deposit in place. But if I ever was to do something like this again, there would be an even higher deposit in place because of things like this. And the previous guy that I allowed to live here, who was just like James, suit and tie and all, but literally lived a completely different life. I was smart enough back then to require almost 3 times the deposit, which was paid prior to the gentleman moving in. And that way, the gentleman did not spend any time in the home when it was time to leave. He left and got his money right back. And so I need to look at doing things like that in the future, especially for someone without a job. But again, I would never, again in life, accept someone who states that they are on the job hunt or about to get a job. Now, I have been gracious before. I've allowed payment assistance plans. I have allowed deposit assistance plans when I was a rookie. Did it work for me? It did. People were able to pay me gradually and stay on top of things. But no more. I cannot do that again. Because one person messes it up for everyone else. So unfortunately, that is the route that is being taken. If you like this story, if this helps you out, if this lets you know a little bit more about investing in real estate, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It truly does help me grow, and you'll never really hear stories like this anywhere else. So again, I post every single day at 8 a.m. daily on YouTube and on Rumble, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.